So you've probably heard of something called a magic square. It is simply a square of numbers such that all the rows, columns, and diagonals add up to the same number. Today I'm going to show you something that I discovered, similar to a magic square, except it's a magic trapezium. So first of all, what is a magic trapezium? Well, a magic trapezium is a trapezium of numbers. It looks like this, such that the rows and the diagonals add up to the same number. These two numbers do not necessarily have to be the same. So I actually found 8 almost magic trapezium before I found the very first magic trapezium using a really slow method by hand. But I'm just going to explain how I did it to you. So first we need to note some things about a magic trapezium. So let's just say we're going to be making a magic trapezium using numbers 1 to 12. Just to keep it simple. Then you find that the sum of all the numbers is going to be 78. So there's 2 rows and they have to be the same, so that means the row sum has to be 39. Another thing to note, because the sum of the first 5 numbers has to be 9 and a plus e is less than or equal to 23, because we are only using numbers from 1 to 12, we have b plus c plus d is more than or equal to 16. And similar logic, a plus c plus e has to be less than or equal to 33 because we are using the numbers from 1 to 12, so b plus d has to be more than or equal to 6. So now that we know these facts, let's get started. So here is our magic trapezium with complete variables except for the row sums because they have to be 39. So the first step is to pick B, D, H, and J. So B plus C plus I plus J has to be equal C plus D plus H plus I because they are both diagonals. This means that B plus J equals D plus H. Let's set this value to M. Now, M has to be more than 5 because the minimum B, J, D, and H can be is 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. And because M is the sum of 2 numbers and we're only using the numbers from 1 to 12, M also has to be less than or equal to 23. So with these constraints, we just simply pick whatever value of M we like. For example, let's say we pick 11. Then all we have to do is pick B, J, D, and H such that they are all different, and B plus J equals M and D plus H also equals M. Let's say this is our choice. So here I've updated our trapezium to have our numbers filled in. So next we have to pick C, A, and E. We'll pick C first. So to pick C, the only constraint we have is that B plus C plus D is more than 16 and that C is different from all the other numbers. So we can just pick C to be a value of 6 and it will be more than or equal to 16. So now we find A and E. So we already know the row sum, which is 39, and we know that B plus C plus D is 30, so that means A plus 20 plus E is 39, so A plus E is 19. Now all we have to do is find 2 values for A and E such that they are different from all the numbers we've picked so far. So we can, for example, pick an 11. So right now we're actually not yet deciding where A is and where E is. We'll leave that flexible for the end. So now let's fill out some of our values in. I'm just putting A and E in those two spots for now. We may have to switch that around later. Okay, so now the next step is to find I, and doing so we will also find S. So finding S, we will note that the average number, because we're using numbers from 1 to 12, is 6.5, and there's 4 numbers in each diagonal, so we would expect a diagonal sum of around 26. So let's just try making the diagonal sum 26. This is actually a bad idea. I will explain why later in the video. So if S is 26, then we have to find I. So then in this case, I would be 9, and because 9 is different from all the numbers we picked so far, S being 26 is valid. So here I've updated our choices. Note that I've left the two side 26s in brackets, because if we only find an almost magic trapezium with one of the diagonals not equaling the sum, then we may have to change one of the diagonals. So now the fourth and final step is to find everything else. That is F, G, K, and L, and also the position of A and E, and S2, so the second diagonal sum if we do have an almost magic trapezium. So now we just have to look at what we've used and what we have left over. So we've used 1, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we have 2, 3, 5, and 12 left over. So now, how many ways can we combine two leftover numbers and the other two? So, for example, we could do 2 plus 3, which is 5, and 5 plus 12, which is 17, so that would give 5 and 17. We can just do 2 plus 5 and 3 plus 12 to give 7 and 15. We can also do 3 plus 5 and 2 plus 12 to give 8 and 14. Now we have to look at A, B, D, and E. So in our current setup, we have 15 on one side and 18 on the other side. We can also switch A and E around to get 12 on one side and 21 on the other side. Now all we have to do now is find one number from the top 6 and one number on the bottom that equal our diagonal sum, which is 26. Let's say we pick 14 and 12. We do not have to pick these numbers. We could have also picked 5 and 21 or 8 and 18, but it wouldn't really matter. So let's just say we pick 14 and 12. So the 12 means that we need 4 and 8, A and B on one side, and 10 and 11 on the other side, so we'll have to switch these around. And the 14 means that we have 2 and 12 on the side with the 4 and the 8, so it means 2 and 12 will be F and G, and the other two numbers, 3 and 5, will go on the other side. So note that the order of F and G and K and L does not really affect the trapezium. I'll explain that in more detail later in the video. So now we have our equation. So 4 plus 8 plus 12 plus 2 is 26. That's good because we chose for it to add up to 26, but the other diagonal actually adds up to 29. So we don't have a completely magic trapezium. So here is our trapezium. You may have noticed that this is the third almost magic trapezium from the 8 that I showed you at the beginning of the video. So now I wrote some code because of course code is much faster, and I used it to find all the magic trapeziums using the numbers from 1 to 12. And here they all are. I will link to a file download in the description if you want to have a look at all of them. And in total, I found 208 distinct magic trapeziums. So what do I mean by distinct? So there's something that you can always use to manipulate a magic trapezium that always keeps it a magic trapezium. For example, here's a trapezium here. One obvious way is just to simply reflect the whole magic trapezium around, and of course it will still stay magic because magic trapeziums are symmetrical. And there is another thing that we can do. We can actually swap the two corner numbers around because they are part of the same diagonals and the same rows, so they will not affect anything and it will still stay magic. So I don't actually count these two different manipulations as distinct. So without counting those, that's going to be 208. So another thing is just about the notation that I've used for all 208 of those magic trapeziums. So I've simply listed the numbers in order from A to L, as in this example here. So I'm just doing this row by row, so 7, 4, 12, 5, 11, 7, 4, 12, 5, 11, and the other numbers go down here. And the final number is just the diagonal sum, because it's another changing aspect of the magic trapezium, and I wanted to see if I could find some patterns. And I did find some patterns. So as I said before, we would expect the diagonal number to be 26, or at least around 26, and you do find some numbers around 26 in the diagonal sums. For example, you will find some 25s, some 27s, some 28s, and even 29s, but you would not find a single 26, which really surprises me. If you can think of a good explanation, then please tell me in the comments. So one last thing I want to say about magic trapeziums. So far all the magic trapeziums we talked about look like this, and that's pretty much how I define the magic trapezium. But this is only a magic trapezium of order 2. It means that it has a side length of 2 here. You can also have magic trapeziums of order 3, of order 4, and more. Okay, so technically magic trapeziums of order 1 are a thing, but they don't actually exist. There are none of them, so just ignore them. And just for a general formula for the number of numbers in a magic trapezium of order n, it is 3n squared numbers in a magic trapezium of order n. So that's it for this video on magic trapeziums. Thank you for watching. If you found this video interesting, then please like and subscribe, and also go on exploring magic trapeziums. Try and find your own. See if you can find some special magic trapeziums. For example, could you find magic trapeziums of higher order, as I said before, order 3, order 4, or could you find magic trapezium such that the row sum is equal to the diagonal sum? Or could you find a magic trapezium made entirely out of distinct square numbers? And if you do find a magic trapezium, then be sure to submit it at either one of these two links. And if you want to have a look at all the magic trapeziums that have been found so far, you can look at the magic trapeziums page on my website. And for any further inquiries on magic trapeziums, then you can always email me at pentamath208@gmail.com. These links will be in the description for your easier access. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.